Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 22 of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Hour. Stefanis. I'm here with Cody Toto and Mike Mijas. Again, Cody's camera is acting up. He does a beautiful face today. Tonight's show, we have Nick Nutter on. We're going to bring him on in a few minutes. But first, let's talk about the week. A few minutes before we started, they dropped the Metamoris 4 trailer for Galvao versus Sonnen. The Enlisters match. There's been a lot of talk about that, so we'll get into that for a little bit. Mike, what'd you do today?
I just got back from the gym. We had today was
Hello,
no-gi.
everybody. Welcome to episode 22 of the
rolled a
Brazilian
lot. It
Jiu-Jitsu
was
Hour.
hot. I haven't rolled
Stefanis
no-gi in a while. It's been it's been almost 2 weeks. I've been doing strictly a lot of gi, and I've been doing a lot of worm guard. I'm not gonna lie. I've been doing a lot of worm guard, a lot of daylight worm guard. I like it, and it's weird not having that grip today. 2 weeks going from grips to no-gi it's always different. So I gotta start doing more no-gi. I've gotten lazy in the gi. I've gotten very grip dependent, so I gotta get back to doing more gi and get back to my good old leg locks and stuff I gotta do. I gotta just do some more no-gi. Did you do any rolling this week?
I didn't get to. I just got my old drawback back in Pittsburgh. But I've just been doing some weightlifting, stuff like that, and I'll probably start training within a month again.
Good. What about you, Cody?
Well, I did no-gi for the first time in about 8 months this week, and I taught some leg locks on my Tuesday night class. It was a pretty good time.
Nice.
It was really hot, so I decided to be lazy and take the gi jacket off. There's not really any air conditioning in the gym, so I don't really like sweating. Like being as lazy as possible. That's right. So
I hear you.
Yeah.
What leg locks did you guys go over?
Well, it was a bunch of white and blue belts, so we just did some like straight foot locks and a basic counter to the straight foot lock, and then I actually showed the heel hook defense that Gary Tonin showed to get out of like that leg lace position when he was down in wheeling. So
Nice.
yeah, just some basic stuff and some escapes.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see how Ronda Rousey posted that she could take any girl in jiu-jitsu gi or no gi? Did you see that?
She would not stand a chance against Gabby Garcia. Absolutely no chance.
She would not stand it. I think there's
a lot. There's a lot.
I think the brown belts that compete at the worlds and stuff like that would beat her.
I think Michelle Nicolini would beat her.
I think Michelle would destroy her.
Yeah. There's a lot of girls out there that would beat her. I really hope that she decides to back up the talk and put it on the line because I'd like to watch it.
Morris.
Even if she loses, I don't really care. If she wins, that's great too. But I'd really like to see it. Brian Simmons posted something on Facebook today, and he called her out. I guess there's like a $7,000 cash prize at the UFC Expo in Vegas this weekend, at the Grapplers Quest Las Vegas Fan Expo, and he called her out on it. But for $7,000,
here's a problem. Here's a problem.
Make it show up.
And not only that, she's in like a movie coming up. What's that movie she's in?
Expendables.
It's a horrible movie. Yeah, that's a horrible movie. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a movie critic, but I think it's a horrible movie. But anyways, I'm sure she's making more than $7,000 being in that with like big actors like that.
Yeah.
So either she said that because she knows it's not going to happen. It's not possible to happen. So
She made $1 million or $500,000 for her last UFC appearance. Go look at the payouts.
That's a lot. That's a ton.
Whoever she fought made like $18,000 that night, and she made $500,000.
Wow. Whoever puts this match on, if it ever does, come about, they're going to have to find some zeros and add it to the end of some numbers before she even starts to consider it.
Yeah.
She's way too big of a superstar right now to compete anywhere. It's cool to see Chael Sonnen do it though. He's definitely taken a pay cut.
Did you watch that trailer?
I haven't watched it. I saw that it got posted. I'm glad I'm not the only one that saw it go up. So I guess that kind of confirms those rumors that we talked about last week.
It's great.
Now let's be honest. Galvao's gonna beat him, and he's gonna beat him if he engages. If he doesn't swab him, if he engages.
That's the problem.
I see. Now don't forget, Chow. he who did he guillotine at the last UFC? Who was the
Shogun.
Shogun?
Yeah,
He
Shogun who?
guillotined him. So he's got submissions and he's got enough. He works with. I know he works out with some good black belts, so he's got some D. So it's gonna go a few minutes, but he's got. I'd probably say around the 5 to 6 minute mark. He might. I see Gaval maybe going for a leg lock on him. Something that's gonna be hard for him to defend. I could see maybe Gaval going for a leg lock on him. I could definitely see that. I could see him going for a heel hook on him. And don't forget, Gaval won the finals of the ADCC against Popovich with a toe hold.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of leg locks in his repertoire. And Gaval's he wrestles all day long. He's good at wrestling. So Gaval's got this one in the bag. But it's nice to see him step up and do this. It's gonna. I think this is gonna be maybe a turning point for him. Maybe we'll get into like more grappling matches, which will be awesome. You know, now that he retired from MMA, that'd be cool to see. But the match I'm really more excited about is Lister Barnett, American Jiu-Jitsu versus American Catch Wrestling. I think it's gonna be awesome. What do you guys think about that match?
Well, I want to go back to the Chael Sonnen and Galval match. Did you see Galval's match? And I know this was a long time ago, but he grappled Weidman, Chris Weidman at ADCC.
Yes.
And that was a really close match. It was a lot closer than you would expect it to be from a guy who was, basically an elite level black belt, and Weidman had really not been all that experienced with jiu-jitsu. I mean, he's a hell of a wrestler, but I think that obviously Galval's gotten a lot better. Weidman's probably a better grappler than Chael Sonnen. But, there's always a chance that, especially if Sonnen is just really focusing on defense and not, actively trying to pass. Because you got to anticipate that Sonnen's going to be on top and Galval's going to be on the bottom to start. It might take a little bit longer if Sonnen doesn't really open up, because that's when Galval's going to catch him, is when he opens up.
But here's the thing. Gaval is a pretty good wrestler. He takes wrestlers down. So I think everyone's expecting for Gaval to be on his back. It might not be that easy. He might keep it standing. It might be. You never know. He might shock him. I could see Gaval initiating a lot because he doesn't want to get schwabbed.
Right.
So that may happen.
So in the trailer, does Chael do his WWF promo stuff like he does in the UFC?
Yep.
I didn't see this.
Yeah.
Yep, at the very end, yeah, definitely does.
Well, good. I'm glad he's bringing some color to jiu-jitsu.
Definitely does it.
By the way, the shirt I'm wearing, in case you guys are wondering about my affection for food, the shirt I'm wearing, it's you win this for eating this huge steak in Clarion, Pennsylvania, at the Roadhouse.
Roadhouse.
It's called the bigger beater. It's called the bigger beater, and this is the shirt I'm wearing. I ate the big steak last week, and this is the shirt I'm wearing. So
the official sponsor
is yes,
the official sponsor
Roadhouse
of Mike's Steaks.
is sponsoring my gut. So
speaking of shirts and jiu-jitsu, Metamoris had like a 50% off sale on everything on their website like 2 months ago. And that was kind of exciting. So I bought like one of everything, and it never came. Never.
Oh God.
I never got charged for it. I never got charged for it, right?
Oh, that's cool.
So, like a month ago, I emailed them, and I forgot about it. I ordered it. It was early in the morning. I forgot about it like 2 weeks later, and then I randomly remembered it a month ago. And I emailed them, and they said that something was sold out and that they were going to send it to me by June 9th. And then I forgot about it again. And, it didn't come up on my credit card statement or anything like that. So, it just wasn't in my head. And I emailed them yesterday because I randomly thought about it again with all the talk about Metamoris. The package came today. I'm pretty excited. I got 2 months later, I got like 4 Metamoris t-shirts in the mail. And the Kron Gracie Shinya Aoki poster.
That's pretty badass. Yeah. All right, let's get Nick on here.
All
He's
right.
waiting for us. Let's get a.
Nick.
Hey, Nick. It's the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Hour. How are you?
Well, how about you?
All right.
Hey, Nick.
Are
What's
we
going
on
on, Nick?
Yeah, we're
Not
live.
much. Oh boy, I'm nervous now.
Well, we can edit out anything that you decide that you don't want us to air, if there is anything.
Oh well, then we're going to probably edit out 90% of the show.
Well, that's what I was afraid of, because Scott gave me quite a list of questions to go over, so that we had the most interesting show possible.
I see let some sleeping dogs lie.
So hey, for to start off the show, there's probably a lot of listeners not familiar with you. I know I wasn't when Scott first showed me the video of you punching Igor Valchanchin in the face. But could you give like a little like breakdown of your training history, your wrestling background and how you got started in MMA and some of the stuff that you've done in the sport?
Yeah, in the whole introduction of the sport, so maybe a 5-minute story that I'd love to tell because it's rather humorous. But I'll give you a bird's eye view, and then I'd like to get into that story too. But my whole thing was basically I grew up near Cleveland, Ohio. My dad was a wrestling coach. I was sort of brainwashed to wrestle as a 4 or 5-year-old. So basically wrestled all through junior high, high school. Luckily enough, state champ. National champion, state runner-up, got a scholarship to Ohio State, All-American there, and then in 1996 I was third at the Olympic trials, which technically put me on the Olympic team. At that point, my roommate in college was Mark the Hammer Coleman, who was one of only 6 people, I believe, in the UFC Hall of Fame, and basically he was kicking ass at that time, and this is 1997, 1996, 97, 98, which is a long time ago. But I was his best training partner, if you will. He's like, Nutter. He goes, when I go to the UFC, it's a vacation. He goes, when I train with you, it's tough every day. He's like, you should be doing this. And I had no intentions of getting into UFC. I grew up, I was a prom king, never been in a street fight in my life, da-da-da-da-da. And which will bring me to my other story of how I got into it, but ended up doing the fighting, by the way. Never fought in the United States. Fought anybody from the UFC. I believe I was 9-2. I believe I fought UFC people and beat them all in under 3 minutes. And at one point, luckily, and God bless, God willing, very humble. I was 19th in the world, and my only loss was to a guy named Igor Valchanchin from the Ukraine. So that's sort of my background. I'm very humble. I don't brag. It is what it is. But in a rearview mirror, when I look, I'm proud of what I've done. Although I don't flaunt it and tell everybody about it, because you know what? If you got to tell somebody how tough you are, you're probably not that tough.
Well, that's kind of how this whole podcast with you came about. We hear a lot of stories about how a friend does that UFC stuff, or I got this friend that fights, and we hear it all the time. And never has anyone ever provided like some sort of video evidence as shocking as what Scott showed me. So that's
and Scott sent me that clip, and I thought it was funny. Like, oh yeah, my buddy's in fighting. Oh yeah, he's really good. And I hear that too. I'm like, oh, what's his name? And then I hear it, and I'm like, I haven't heard of him. Is he pro? Oh yeah, he's awesome. And then I'll Google him, or I'll go to Fight Fighter. I'm like, I don't see him. Oh well, da-da-da. And then you know what? You find out he fought at the Medina, or the West Liberty Fairground. Oh, okay. I was just corrected by a training partner of mine, Tom Judson. We're in New York City, and he's sort of my man behind the scenes, who also owned the gym with me, Nutter MMA. But he just had to point out that there's 11 UFC Hall of Famers. He's definitely going to correct me on live radio, but he's a good guy. But you know what? 9 times out of 10, when you look him up, one, it was just a dude who was a street, they got in a street fight at the county fair that claims that he was built. And, a lot of guys come into your gym. And I'm sure it's the same thing in the whole jiu-jitsu world, where the guys with all the tap-out tattoos, they come in, they look, they look like wannabe fighters and whatnot. But what is that, by the way, Tom?
That's the Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay. I'm showing me the UFC Hall of Fame. And I didn't know Max was in it from tap-out people. Coleman was the very first person ever in the UFC Hall of Fame. Yes, okay. I'm sorry for having a conversation on the side. But you see all these people that come into your gym and they got tap-out, cage fighter, all these tattoos, and then you say, okay, guys, we're going to work out today. And I say, do 25 push-ups. Like, what? No, I'm a fighter. I don't do push-ups. So I'm like, well, fighters are athletes. And, a lot of people are humbled right away, when you start saying stuff like that. I'm sure it's the world too. But, at the end of the day, a fighter is not just a street fighter at the county fair. It's a guy that is, a wrestler, a jiu-jitsu, a judo, a taekwondo expert, a guy that loves his discipline, that is a real athlete that goes out and does it. It's not a guy that, I don't know, that sort of pisses me off about these wannabes. But they're exposed quickly and, they quit. And I just hope they get those tattoos removed as well.
Nick, I wanted to ask you a question. Do you have a gym?
We did, and I'm like I said, I'm with my buddy here in New York City. We both work in ironically, in the medical field. We're trying to heal people and make them better. Although we've lived our life of trying to hurt them temporarily to get a paycheck, but. We used to have a gym. It's called Nutter MMA. It was in Medina, Ohio. I had a guy, Tom Judson, who was the co-owner, who was really good buddies. And I don't know if you guys are Cleveland football fans with Touchdown Tommy Vardell. Really helped out a lot with our gym. And basically, he wanted to get a lot of troubled youth off the street and promote wrestling. So I got to thank Touchdown Tommy Vardell, who was the NFL Hall of Famer at Stanford and whatnot. He did an awesome job for our gym, as did Tom. But I want to just really publicly thank these guys, because Nutter MMA would be nothing without Tommy Vardell and Tom Judson. So, but we did have a gym, and we did have, and I'm looking at Tom right now, 4 or 5 pro fighters, probably a dozen amateurs, and we had a guy that was basically even on Ultimate Fighter, basically the last cut of the Ultimate Fighter. So for a little gym in Medina, Ohio, we did okay.
Nick, what was the reason you guys was there a reason you guys shut the gym down? Was because of everyone's careers, or is it something you might do again?
No, you know what? We loved the gym. The gym was going awesome. Tommy Vardell basically was a storage unit that was in the middle of basically a warehouse district. And we basically, with the help of Tom Judson, turned the gym around. It happened to be one day, my brother was a wrestling coach, a high school wrestling coach, and one of his ex-high school wrestlers said, hey, I'm going to start fighting and stuff. I heard your brother used to fight. Can you guys help me out? So we started working out a little bit, and Tom had some wrestling mats in there because Tommy Vardell wanted to open up to help wrestling in the area. Mm-hmm. So we had wrestling mats. I'm like, hey, Tom, can we use your wrestling mats to train this guy? And we started training him. Basically, he came, people started watching, like, oh, I want to do that. And the snowball just started from that point. And people just started coming and like, wow, we could train MMA here. Nobody in the area had it. And it just was a snowball thing. And luckily I had a good pedigree and a background, and we had great support from, NFL football players. And Tom himself had a pretty good athletic background with a lot of military ranger stuff. So it's just, we were palatable to ex-athletes, we were palatable to the military, we were palatable to so many people, and it just snowballed. So that's where okay, so how did we get out of it? Tommy Vardell ended up, he's a very smart businessman, realized things were going south in the market, found a good deal. She sold a storage unit. The new owner came in, wanted to basically triple our monthly mortgage. And we said, screw you. we're out of here. So we left.
Is it another gym now? Is it something else?
They turned it into a CrossFit gym, which what's funny is, I swear to you, if you rewind 10 years, Nutter MMA was doing CrossFit before CrossFit became popular. We were pushing cars in the parking lot. We were hitting sledgehammers, and people are like, what are you guys doing? Like, we were ahead of our game, and then the CrossFit came in, and now CrossFit's huge. And what's funny is we were doing CrossFit before CrossFit was cool. And the other thing about Nutter MMA, probably 80% of the money we brought in, we realized that the fighters, like 18 to 26-year-old fighters, didn't have much money. They just were wannabes that wanted to come in and train. However, it was the 25 to 50-year-old ladies, beautiful moms and husbands that wanted their wives to be in shape, and we called it ultimate fitness classes. And these girls put on gloves, they sparred, they boxed, they pushed cars, they did sledgehammers. We had two girls that were like made national TV, like on Jenny Craig, like body transformations. Like we turned like so many, like I want to say, middle-aged women around. Like that was our biggest selling point. And it wasn't so bad seeing a lot of, hot milfs, if you will, come into the gym and, train. So I really liked that part of it.
Yeah, the reason why I'm asking this question about your gym and stuff, because like we have like someone like you, someone like Mark. I'm like, I can't understand why one of you guys haven't built like a huge gym to come out of Ohio. Like it's just like I just think that if you opened like a gym, it'd be like one of the biggest gyms in Ohio just by marketing your name alone, or with Mark or someone like that. It just seems like
the Hammer House. The Hammer House would have been huge. Yeah. And honestly, I talked to Mark, and I said we're roommates. Mark's cool with it. His lawyer had a problem with it. Started off as Hammer House Medina, and we even got signs made and everything. But his lawyer Coleman's like, no. I told him he's like, no, not unless you're getting a cut. So basically, we had to turn it into Nutter MMA, which was a nice name in and of itself in our area. But Hammer House Medina would have brought it a lot better. I think Mark, honestly, oh boy, I know this is public, but honestly, he's a really good dude. He's one of my best friends, one of my best men in my wedding and stuff. But I just don't think, you look at him, he's such an ass kicker and da-da-da, but you know what? Sometimes socially, he's insecure. And, he's not a big businessman, doesn't want to take risks, and has been burned by a lot of people in his life. So he doesn't want to put it out there until it's perfect. Now, we've talked probably the last 3 months about rekindling it. Unfortunately, I've been really busy with work. I'm in New York until August, maybe even longer. But it's something I want to do. And since our gym closed, by the way, I'm looking at our guy as he's eating ice cream. We both gained. Okay, it's kind of cheese, but I want to make sure it was ice cream. But we each gained like 50 or 60 pounds. Like not only financially, this was good for us, but physically and health-wise, it's the best thing for us. And it was fun. We traveled the country with our fighters. I'm a great corner man, and I'm very passionate, but I miss it. There's something in my heart that's missing. And obviously, for my physical heart health, it was a lot better because these 50 unanswered pounds since the gym closed is not good for me.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, being inactive like that. So, and I know I'm on the road all the time. It's definitely rough. Now, one question I want to ask you: your first MMA fight. Which one was your first one? Was that the one in Israel?
Yeah. And I wanted to just tell you how I got into it. By the way, so basically, this: I've been training with Coleman. I was an All-American. I just got off the '96, Olympic trials. Basically, I was training with Coleman, and he was kicking ass. UFC 10 dominated. He probably dominated 4 or 5 UFCs in a row until he got a little prideful and didn't train hard for Maurice Smith and was humbled. But anyways, I was his workout partner, and I was kicking ass. Like, he's like, no, when I go to the UFC, it's a vacation. When I train with you, he's like, you should do it. I'm like, Coleman, I can't do that. I would get my ass kicked. I'm too like, I've never been in a street fight in my life, and da-da-da. So I went home for the weekend, and I talked to my girlfriend, who is now my wife. And I'm like, Amy, Coleman thinks I should fight. She's like, oh, my God, you would get your ass kicked. There's no way. And you know how bad that pissed. It pissed me off so bad that as I'm sitting with her, we were in like a restaurant, I picked up my big-ass cell phone. I called Coleman right there on the spot, looking at her in the eyes, and I'm like, flipping my big cell phone. I'm like, Coleman. He's like, hey, what's up? I'm like, it's Nutter. And he said, what's up? I'm like, give me a fight. He goes, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, give me a fight right now. I'm in. He's like, all right. So I hung up and basically saying, fuck you, Amy. Don't tell me I can't fight. And I had a couple cocktails in me, too. Well, lo and behold, he calls me 8 in the morning. He's like, Nutter, good news. I got your fight. Go to this webpage. Look on YouTube. Here, I find out I got a fight a month and a half later in Tel Aviv, Israel. So I'm a guy that if I commit to something, I do it. So at that point, I realized I had to do it. So I did not want to be a fighter. I did not want to fight. However, out of fight, if you challenge me and say I can't do something, you're probably going to eat crow because I'll do it. Tell me, oh, I dare you to commit suicide. I'll commit suicide just to do it, just to prove a point. I'm that stubborn, So basically, I was off to Tel Aviv, Israel. And what's funny is we trained for about 2 months. Went out to Arizona, trained with Mark Kerr. I don't know if you ever saw the Smashing Machine, that documentary.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, but basically, this is in the heyday. This is before Kerr fought Igor and lost him 2 times as well. But we went out to Arizona, trained our butt off, came back to Columbus. Day before the fight, I haven't drank. I've lost some weight. I've been really, really working out hard. Day before the fight, Coleman calls me. He's like, Nutter, bad news. I'm like, what's up? He's like, your fight's canceled. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, the Israeli government won't allow that kind of fighting in their land. I'm like, well, that's weird because they can do suicide bombings and all this other thing, and everybody's got machine guns, and they won't let 2 people bare knuckle fight. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I went and hit the bars, and I partied my ass off. Basically closed down every bar I could. Got out at about 6 in the morning. Went to bed. Coleman calls me at 8 in the morning. 8 in the morning the next day. He's like, Nutter, you still want to fight? I'm like, absolutely. Trying to act sober and stuff, although I was ready to vomit. He's like, all right, I'm picking you up. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. I'm like, okay. So I just throw a bunch of shit in my duffel bag, and he comes and picks me up at like 9. I throw my duffel bag in the back of his car, and I don't see his suitcase. I'm like, Coleman, what's up? He's like, oh, I got bad news. I can't go with you. The plane tickets are too expensive. Now, first of all, I didn't want to fight to begin with, because I'd never been in a street fight in my life. Second of all, I didn't want to leave the country by myself. I mean, I've been to Tijuana maybe prior to that point, but I've never flown overseas. So now I'm on a one-way ticket to Tel Aviv, Israel, to get in a bare-knuckle cage fight, which I don't want to do. And my coach, my role model, is not going with me. So that sets me up for my trip to Israel. And, there's more stories to that whole thing, but I don't want to bore you with it. But you asked what my first fight was. It was Israel, and that's how I stumbled upon it.
Now I heard you got stuck in an airport in Tel Aviv once. Is there any truth to that?
Well, okay, here's the story, and my wife's probably listening, so I can't tell the whole story, but...
we could do some creative
huh?
Actually, we can't. We're live on YouTube. So...
Oh, we're live? Okay, well, Amy, I love you. But the moral of the story is, I'm not going to tell this one at the moment, but let's just say I got hung up in customs, but everything checked out fine, and I ended up getting home on time. But I'll tell you this one off the record. I'll let you judge whether I should throw it out there. If that's okay.
Yes, yeah.
Go.
All right. I don't want to incriminate anybody or anything, but I got so many stories to tell you. Like, I would love to. I'd love to give you like some pretty cool stories, and for instance, one of the time in Brazil, and I know this is the Jiu-Jitsu hour, so I know you guys. Now, tell me, and I'm going to interview you for a second. Tell me your thoughts on MMA.
I like it.
There you go. Stephanie loves it.
I like it.
So on a serious note, tell me what you guys think, because I don't want to come in here and be an MMA. I don't want to come in and be an MMA meathead. And what I've learned is Jiu-Jitsu. What I've learned. Let me just. I know I'm talking way too much, but okay. When the first fight started, it was, and you can look back to the very first UFC ever. It was that dude from Holland versus the Samoan, sumo wrestler. And it was like sumo wrestler versus this. And then, you know what? It's UFC 1 through 8. Jiu-Jitsu dominated. Like, nobody knew what the hell Jiu-Jitsu was. And you know what? It was proven probably at that time to be the number one sport, number one, I want to say,
combat art.
Martial art in the
Martial
world.
art, yeah.
And then I think Coleman changed it when he came in and was a wrestler. And he was a big, strong wrestler that were a lot bigger than the Brazilians. Although their technique might be better, he was able to just power his way out of maybe some arm bars and some stupid chokes and obviously put the jiu-jitsu guys on their back. So I think wrestling took over for a while. Then they realized wrestlers, if they don't take me down, they're not that good on their feet. So all the kickboxers started learning, well, I'll just learn sprawl, and I'll stop their double leg, and then, you can't take them down, they're going to get punted in the head, and so you see kickboxers dominate for a while. Let's say the Maurice Smith, the Pete Williams, they started dominating. And then what happened is, at that point, people started saying, hey, I'm not going to be a kickboxer, I'm not going to be a sumo guy, I'm not going to be a jiu-jitsu, I'm going to know a little bit of everything. I'm going to be a well-rounded fighter, so it doesn't matter if I'm a wrestler or a jiu-jitsu or kickboxing. I'm going to know a little bit of everything, and I might not be the best in one attribute, but if things go south and I go to my back, I'll be able to fight off with my jiu-jitsu. If the guy can't take me down, I'll kickbox. So I think then everybody started doing, that's when mixed martial arts, MMA, was born, where you got to know a little bit of everything. You know what I'm saying? And now I believe it's even, everybody is good at jiu-jitsu. Everybody's good at wrestling. Everybody's good at boxing. And I'm not saying you know a little bit about everything. I'm going to say that everybody knows a lot about those sports. So I believe what's coming in now, and I'm changing my tune, was training. Cardio training and, getting in shape and doing the plyometric box jumps. And it became everybody's good at every discipline. So it's who's stronger longer. It started winning. We're going 5 rounds now. Who's going to be the strongest in the 5th round? And now, for the first time I'm saying this, is now we're getting into an age of chemical enhancement. You look at testosterone replacement therapy and all these people. All these guys are now not awesome at every attribute, but all of them know jiu-jitsu, all of them know judo, all of them know wrestling, all of them know kickboxing, all of them are great shape. Now we got chemical and science coming into it of who's stronger genetically, and if I'm not stronger genetically, how do I make myself there? So I think that's the whole, I may be way over talking, but I think that's the whole history of the sport.
Wrestlers grow up learning how to work hard, do crazy hard,
in shape. So that's my 2 cents on the sport, if you will, of where we stand now.
The whole TRT thing, what do you think about that? About the older guys? Like, I'm 40 years old. What do you think about these older guys and the TRT? You think it's cheating? Do you think it's okay? Their hormone levels are dropping. It's okay if a doctor's putting you on. What do you think about it?
I'm good at devil's advocate. Now, if you told me to pick one side of the argument, really, I'm neutral on it. But if you told me to pick one side, I would defend that side great. If you told me to pick the other side, I would defend that side great. Here's the thing, is under under the rules, you're allowed to have a 6-to-1 testosterone to epitestosterone ratio. And under the rules. And basically, these rules came probably in the 1970s when there was this Iranian dude who was super hairy. He was basically a man that had testosterone flowing through his brain or flowing through his body. However, his ratio was 6-to-1. But if you test 99% of the population, their testosterone to epitestosterone ratio will be 1-to-1. However, for extreme cases like this andro male, this type A male, they said, okay, you're allowed to have 6-to-1 ratio. And people, okay, testosterone is a naturally produced substance in the body. Steroids are trying to mimic testosterone. So steroids are bad. Okay, in my opinion, steroids are bad. If God gave you testosterone, it's good. If the law or the rules say you're allowed to be a 6-to-1 ratio and everybody else is doing it, why not inject myself to be at a 6-to-1 ratio? Because everybody else is doing it. It's going to prove, I mean, science, history has proven that if you inject testosterone, you're going to get bigger, stronger, faster, and leaner. And it can only help you. Now, I think in a 6-to-1 ratio is not abuse of a steroid or performance enhancing. I think it's use. It's basically rejuvenating yourself. And I don't know how old you guys are, but I just turned 40, and I don't feel as good as I did when I was 20 years old. But the whole thing of testosterone replacement therapy is restoring your hormone levels to back in your bigger days when you were like 20. And I had no problem with it. And people are like, well, it's not natural. It's not natural. God didn't want you to. But here's the thing. We've lived in our society for 8,000 or whatever, 10,000 years of recorded man history. And we know what happens when you age, your testosterone slows down, your human growth hormone slows down, your body ages, your cells mutate into cancerous cells, malignant cells, and you die. So why not keep your human growth hormone flowing? Why not keep your testosterone growing? Keep your body on the up and up. Because I have a feeling you're going to live longer, and your cells are going to mutate into cancer because of lack of growth hormone. And this is just my hypothesis, and I will be humbled, or I'll sound very smart in 30 years when the science comes out. But
or you discovered a cure to cancer, and you're going to be a billionaire.
Well, here's the thing. I believe I've read enough articles that the reason why people age and cells mutate is because human growth hormone stops producing, and when your body's not creating new cells, those old cells mutate and turn into malignant cells, and you die of cancer. A lot of people, probably for the last 15 years, have been going to Mexico getting human growth hormone treatment, and I haven't heard of many of them dying of cancer. But you know what? Who knows? Maybe you're going to die a horrible death, and God is right. These are going to decline. I don't know. There's not enough evidence out there for me to really go one way or the other. And like I said, I could play the other side of the fence and say, hey, it's God's will. If He wanted you to have human growth hormone as a 20-year-old when you're 80, He would do that for you. But I could play both sides of the fence. But coming back on human or testosterone replacement therapy, if the sport says you're allowed to have a 6-to-1 testosterone to epitestosterone ratio, I would make damn sure I got an endocrinologist that has me at that level. Not over it, so I'm not cheating, but I'm not going to be at a competitive disadvantage when somebody's doing it and I'm not. That was a long-winded answer to that question, and I apologize.
It was good.
Alistair Overeem, I think, had 12-to-1 when he got busted.
Who was?
Alistair Overeem.
Alistair Overeem?
Yeah.
Yeah, now here's one. I talked about use and abuse. You look at Alistair Overeem in his late 90s, early 2000 days in Pride. He was tall, skinny, the Muay Thai guy, and obviously he was tough back then. But you look at his body from then until now, that is abuse. That's not use.
205 to 255 in like 4 years.
Yeah, he is abusing testosterone, and I'm not accusing him of anything, but other performance-enhancing drugs. That's abuse, not use, and that's wrong. I don't think that belongs in the sport. don't tell him I said that because he's a little younger than me and better shape, and I don't want to whoop my ass. So, all right, whatever you do, Alistair, I agree with. So, just for the record, that's what I said.
Hey,
So
let's get back to the Volv Chanchin fight. I just wanted to hear a little bit about what it was like stepping in with Igor in a bare knuckle, no time limit fight, and I heard there were some funny stories about that as well.
Well, I don't know if you guys know this, but I fought him 2 times. And one back then in 1997, the first time I fought him was in Tel Aviv, Israel, when I didn't have Coleman in my corner. And back then it was like the old school UFC, where it was an 8-man tournament. And God forbid a guy fights 3 times in 1 year nowadays. You're going to fight once in April, you're going to fight once in September, and maybe you'll do a January 1st fight. The fighters today. Back then it was an 8-man tournament. So you go in the cage. If you win, you fight 15 minutes later. If you win that, you fight a half hour later. So, the sport has evolved and changed a lot. And it's probably for the better because obviously injuries aren't as bad, But back then it was an 8-man tournament. And like I said, I got off the plane, went to the thing, and I was still hungover. I was throwing up on the car ride over. I got so many back stories to tell you. But, okay, basically I beat my first guy. His name was Maxim Tarasov, who was, I believe, an Olympic pole vaulter for Russia, too. Maxim Tarasov, you could Google the guy. But he was an Olympic pole vaulter, so he's a tall, skinny guy. Basically got him. Then I fought a guy from the UFC, man Joe Charles, who I believe made it to the finals of one of the UFCs. Maybe not, maybe the semifinals. But I beat him, and then I'm facing Igor Vovchanchyn at the finals. And honest to God, the first 2 fights were rather easy. I just took him down. I respect Jiu-Jitsu. So it's not that I'm going to apply a Jiu-Jitsu hold on you, but I'm going to study and make sure I don't get caught in one. And just I want to respect Jiu-Jitsu here a little bit. The one time I went and did a gi training with real Jiu-Jitsu guys, you wouldn't believe how many times I had to tap out. That is such a big difference. No gi versus gi. I was so humbled, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this 145-pound dude is making me tap like a little bitch. It's amazing, gi versus no gi. And it's also nice, when you're in trouble, to be able to punch your way out of it versus grapple your way out of it. So those were my advantages, but trust me, if I had to pick one dominant sport besides wrestling, and wrestling just to get the guy down on his back, it's going to be Jiu-Jitsu. So I love the Jiu-Jitsu hour. I have a lot of respect for you guys. So I just wanted to say that too. So you know that I love you guys and I have a lot of respect for Jiu-Jitsu. But basically, I got in the cage with Igor Vovchanchyn. And at this point, he was maybe 15th in the world. He was just this, I didn't really even know him that much. I looked at him. He was shorter than me. I'm like, I'm bigger than this dude. I should be able to smash this guy. He's short, stocky. I went out there. I was very confident. I ran across the ring. I don't know if you guys saw the fight. I shot him, took him down to the ground, got him up against the cage, and I was sort of having my way with him. At about the 7-minute mark, I was able to break his guard. I got a side mount, and I started landing some knees in his head. And if you watch the video, you'll see him tap. And I'm not saying this to be a poor loser or a shame on, I should have won that fight. But he taps. The referee stops me and is like, "Stop up," and he spoke in Russian, so I couldn't really understand what he was saying. So I'm looking at him, and he's basically talking Greek to me, but really Russian. I'm like, "What? Is it over?" Now if I had Coleman in my corner, Coleman would have been like, "Get up, you're done," But I had nobody. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't understand. So he's like, "Fight, fight." So when he said fight again, I started kneeing him again. The guy tapped out again. At this point, he sort of stops me again, like, wait. And at this point, when he said wait, is when I got really bad headbutt from Igor, and he really smashed my nose and ruined my breathing. And at this point, this is when mentally I started going backwards. I'm like, wow, I think he just tapped twice. I was kicking his ass. Now my nose is bleeding. Now I'm getting tired. This sucks. I'm not going to win. And I think mentally I just had to turn for the worst at that point. And, you know, I think mental is 50-50. Physical training, wrestling background, jiu-jitsu. I think mental, though, going in there but when your mental turns, your body shuts down. And at that point, it was a slow death. That was maybe the 7-minute mark, and, you know, I found myself tapping at the 28-minute mark. Not because anything of, well, a lot of this stuff hurts that he was hitting me with it. You know what really hurt was the bare knuckle to the back of the head that you're not allowed to do now. But in hindsight, I'm like, Jesus, that hurts so bad. I'd rather just get knocked out from a clean punch and go to sleep rather than feel these like noogies in the back of the head for a half hour.
It seems like he would reach around your head and punch. It was a weird punch. It was like he'd come around and hit like the side of your ear. It was really weird.
And when you shake the guy's hands, you know, he's short in stature and he's really thick, but he had probably the biggest, meatiest paws I've ever shook in my life. He just had really big, strong, callousy hands, and I felt every little thud in the back of my head. Now, I was in a dominant position, obviously. If I was laying on the ground and he was doing it, I would have been in real trouble, but luckily I was in a dominant position. But you know what? My hat, we went to Jerusalem like 2 days later, and I couldn't even wear my hat because my head was so swollen from the shots to the back of the head. But, you know, that stuff's illegal now. But anyways, it was legal at the time, and it was rather effective for him. And then the headbutts and stuff. I don't know. I like Igor. And, you know, he doesn't speak English, but his translator, he cares about me. He's a family man. He's got kids. He's got a wife. He doesn't want to hurt anybody, but he's one of the most vicious strikers, or if you even look at his record, he's won more 8-man tournaments than anybody. He's just a Russian who was brought up on a hard life, his dad probably made $100 a week, and they probably fought for every piece of borscht or potato they could have, and he just grew up hard, where I grew up in Cleveland. I didn't grow up rich. My dad was a school teacher, but Lord knows I wasn't spending for my life every day, and maybe that's the softness of us Americans or whatever, but, you know, I think physically I was bigger. At the beginning I was mentally stronger, but you know what, as it wear down, it's just a dude that's been there in the trenches, and, you know, what's the worst can happen? I die in the cage? I don't know. I give the guy a lot of credit because, you know, obviously a lot of guys would have tapped. He's the only guy I couldn't get to tap out, although I did at the 7-minute mark.
No, Nick, you're going against one of the best in MMA, too. You have to put that in perspective, too. You're going against one of the top, you know, legends in MMA, too, also at the time. This guy was considered, I remember I bought that IVC. Those were one of the first, besides
nice
UFC
job.
And it was back then. That was like one of the when he came on the scene. He was like the equivalent to who's the top MMA guy right now. I don't know. One of the top MMA guys right now. That's what he was back then. So you were going against the best of the best at the time. So.
Well, now here's the thing: is he was just a phenom that won a bunch of 8-man tournaments. Now, what was nice is after I fought him, you know, I thought Mark Kerr would kill him, and then he beat Mark Kerr, which, one, I'm Mark Kerr's buddy, so he's my teammate, a Hammer House teammate, so I'm cheering for Mark Kerr, but on the inside, I'm like, all right, maybe I'm not so bad. He just beat Mark Kerr's ass. Mark Kerr had a rematch with him, and Igor beat him worse. And then they had that Pride Grand Prix at 2000 with Sakurabu, Boyce Gracie, Kerr, Fujita, like all the best fighters in the world. And who gets to the finals but my roommate and my only guy that beat me, you know? So that made me feel good, like, hey, I'm losing to the number 2 dude in the world. And, you know, all these other guys have lost to him. And to my credit or whatever is I got the guy to tap. You know, I think the second fight obviously was a 9-second knockout. He got me flush. He knocked me out. Good for him. But I think it was a fluke. But I do not want a rematch right now. I'll just tell you that. I don't want a rematch. So don't think I'm like barking up a tree like, bring it, Igor. However, I heard I think he's like 300 pounds now and owns a restaurant. So maybe it would be a good fat boy tussle if we went at it again.
Now, Nick, do you do any training at all now? Do you do any training? Do you do anything? Is it just, do you have time for any of that? Do you have...
You know what we did today is me and my buddy Tom Judson, we got to focus mitts out here in New York. And I work with a lot of diverse people. Like, for instance, one of the guys I work with is a boxer, Gold Glove boxer. But I get our little group together, and he teaches me boxing. I don't know everything about boxing, so I let him teach me boxing. I teach him MMA. Like, hey, that's cool for boxing, but in like, let's say, real life, you can't just throw that jab and be on your heels. You got to defend the shot, and then you got to defend leg kick. So I think I still like, I'm trying to learn every discipline. For instance, over the weekend, there's a Jiu-Jitsu gym down the street where I'm just going to go and say, hey, can I roll with you guys for the night? Obviously, I'll get tapped out and submitted and humbled because I got to wear a gi. Now, if I don't have to wear a gi, I can probably fight it off pretty good. But I will be humble. I expect to tap out. I am 40 years old. But it's fun, you know, and if there's anything I can teach anybody, you know, they know more Jiu-Jitsu than I do, especially gi stuff. But you know what? I'll say, hey, if you don't want to go to your back, why don't you sprawl? Why don't you throw this whizzer in? You get the dominant. You know, I try to train and teach anybody that's willing to listen to me. In reciprocal, I learn a lot from them too. So I don't know. It's just a sport. MMA is a sport that I just am intrigued with, and I don't care how good you are, you'll never know everything. And there's people out there, whether it's a kung fu dude from China where you think kung fu is a bunch of bullshit, he's going to teach you something that makes sense. And if you just listen to enough people, you know, obviously you bring it all in. And here's what I think. Wrestling, if you watch, like, Olympic wrestling, you'll see those guys do a collar tie, which there's no way anybody's going to do a collar tie in MMA because you're going to get Muay Thai kicked in the head. But 90% of wrestling is a collar tie series. So I'd say only there's 8% of wrestling moves that work in MMA. Just like karate. I'd say you take the top 8% moves of karate, and then you say Jiu-Jitsu without a gi. You grab, let's say, the arm bar, the triangle choke, the rear naked choke. You know, you grab these non-gi ones, you throw that. You think about 8 to 10% of every discipline, and you're probably pretty damn good. My opinion, and I may be totally off, but that's my 2 cents.
No, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Actually,
everybody's got something to offer.
I had met you. I met you in the '90s in Columbus. I think it was.
Okay.
It was with you were. It was Mark was there. You were there. It was. I can't remember what year it was. It was at '90. But did you go to any of the? Did you go to any of the fights in Cleveland in the '90s? There was a couple fights in the flats this year.
Yeah. Wait 1 second. Sorry. All right. You need a beer. No, it's in my room. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Okay, so did I go to any of the fight nights in the flats?
Yeah, did you go to the fights in the '90s? Because I met Mark came to one of them. It was in '99. There were a couple fights in the flats in Cleveland.
Yeah, that would have been. I wanted to be on that card, and I think one of our other teammates, Brad Kohler, was the main event. I don't know if you guys remember that name.
Yeah,
but
that's who I trained with at the time was Brad. I was training with Brad at the time, and that's when we came down to Columbus.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's when I met you. I think that's when I met you. But you were going to fight on that card?
No, I didn't fight on the card. I've never fought in the United States, and I regret not fighting on it. But I was at the fight night in the flat as a tourist or a coach or a cornerman, if you will. However, I regret never fighting in the United States. It's something. It's an opportunity never came to me, or the money didn't work out. And back then we were fighting for peanuts, And for a guy who, personally, I really don't like fighting. I get really nervous. I don't want to get my ass beat in front of people on TV. However, if I look back at my career, I'm pretty happy with what I've done. I've really never got beat up. I got to 2 losses, 1 to Igor in 28 minutes, where I probably dominated 23 of the 28 minutes. And then the other one was a 9-second knockout by Igor, which to me was a fluke. But nobody's ever just took me down and bitched me and treated me like a bitch. So, I'm glad that never happened. But for a guy who really, God, do I want to go out there and fight? I get nervous as hell. I would lose sleep. It wasn't healthy for me, because I was a nervous wreck. It was something that I wasn't comfortable doing. I don't like hitting people. I'd rather hug you than hit you. But if there's a $10,000 payday at the end of the tunnel, I will hit you a little bit until you tap, and then I'll give you a hug.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
So,
Nick, is there any chance of you opening a gym again in Ohio? Is that do you think that's going to happen in the future? Do you think there's any chance of that?
Absolutely. I would love to. Right now, what's weird is my job has me on the road so much. Like I told you, I'm in New York City. I think when I first talked to you, I was in Chicago. But right now, I'm traveling the country. And there's only a short time frame. It's called electronic medical records. And basically, Obama said all hospitals, when you go to your doctor, you used to bring out your chart and write in it and stuff. That's not allowed anymore. So everything now has to go into a computer. And by 2015, all these companies all hospitals have to be electronic medical records. And I have a feeling that eventually it's going to end. And when I have more, I'm going to make hay while the sun's shining. And when the sun sets down a little bit, I got 100 people asking me to open up a gym. And if you guys know anybody that wants to partner up with me, I am all ears because, one, I enjoy it. I like, traveling with my fighters and being in their corner and representing them. I like teaching people. 3, health reasons why. I would be a lot leaner and in better shape. I'm so want to do it, but I rationalize with myself and say it's not a good time because I could be making more money not doing it,
Yeah. But you could definitely make some money on MMA seminars. I know that. I know people would definitely have you in for MMA seminars, and
Well, and I want to kick that around too. It's like, maybe me and Coleman will go for a weekend. We'll do a Friday, Saturday. And then you go to dinner and maybe get some beer and wings with us, and we tell old war stories. People want that, and what Coleman's got the name, and if you're a real historian and you research me, you would respect me too. But Coleman, for the mass public, has the better name than me. But charisma-wise and talking and teaching, I'm probably better at that than him, and he would tell you the same thing. So we would make a good team. We would go in, we would sell Coleman's name. When you get there, obviously he'd be showing stuff too, but I'd probably be better at explaining it. And, charisma, I don't know. It would just be, honest to God, that's something that we should be doing a lot more of.
Well, if you, if you ever decide to do that, let us know. We'll be sure to put the word out, and similarly, if if you plan to open a gym, let us know. We'll be sure to help you publicize it. But we wanted to thank you for coming on tonight. I know your schedule's pretty busy. You're bouncing all over the country. Really wanted to say thanks for coming on. Really enjoyed having you. If you want to say thanks to anybody right now, anyone you want to give a shout out to, the mic is yours.
All right. Well, listen, here's the thing. One, I want to thank you guys for remembering a has-been like me. I'm very humbled. I was excited to do it. Obviously, you know that I've been crazy busy with travel, and then I love my wife and my family and my daughters. And when I have time to spend with them when I'm traveling, I'm going to. And you were really cool about not making me keep my word about Thursday night like last Thursday. Like, you've been so good. So I love you guys. I love jiu-jitsu. Like I told you, if it's one discipline, obviously I'm going to lean towards wrestling a little bit because I was brainwashed to like it as a kid. But we had a guy at our gym who was a black belt in jiu-jitsu, a 160-pounder. A year and a half ago, he would tap me out at least once a week. A 160-pound dude would get me every week. But I think if I was allowed to just pick him up and slam him and smash his face, he would quit a lot of these chokes on me. But the moral of the story is a little 160-pounder could, if you wanted to, and jiu-jitsu rules, make me tap like a bitch at least once a week. And I think I know my shit. But I have a lot of respect for jiu-jitsu. And thank God he was only 160 pounds and not 260 pounds. Else I'd have been in real trouble. But a lot of respect for jiu-jitsu. I'd love to. If you guys ever want me back, I'd love to. I've got more good stories. I don't know if I know I was very long-winded tonight.
Oh, we'll definitely get you back. We'll definitely get you back.
Pardon?
We'll definitely get you back on.
Okay, and anything I could do to help you guys. Next time I'm out in your area, obviously I'd love to roll with you guys, and obviously you show me some jiu-jitsu tricks, and I will tell you how to at least get on top mount, so you're not on your back, in guard. I'd rather be on top, but that's not true for everybody. Some people just would rather pull guard and work from their back and chill. I don't have that confidence, but I'll keep you from getting on your back if you're a top guy.
Sounds good.
So, all right.
Thank you for coming on.
I'm in Youngstown, Ohio, so we're not that far from you. So
I know I will be driving through there on my way back from New York, and maybe I'll tell my wife I'm coming home the following day, and we'll get a workout in and maybe grab some wings and beers, and I'll say, oh, well, really, I'm getting home the next day. So,
awesome.
Unfortunately, this is live now on YouTube, so she's going to find out about my trick. But we'll cross that bridge when she finds out about it.
Thanks for coming on, Nick. That was awesome. We'll definitely get you on again another time.
All right. God bless you guys. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, bye.
That was fun.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was great.
Sweet. That was Man, that guy's been through a lot. That guy's you figure he went to Israel and fought. I mean,
By himself.
Without
Anybody.
That's
Sounds like another person we had on before, but he wasn't punching people.
Yeah.
Sorry, Robbie.
Yeah.
Still impressive what you did, but we got Nick Nutter, so.
Yeah, that's pretty. A lot of our shows have to do around with Israel. Very Israel friendly. I like that.
Until you fought the Israel Krav Maga champion and beat him in 1998.
Yes, I did. Even though he did kick me in the ribs a bunch of times, but it's another story. That was awesome. That was man, that'd be cool if he comes to Youngstown. We get some rolls in. That'd be
I'll drive up for that.
That'd be awesome. That's a.
You know,
and I know he knows some submissions. Trust me. Trust me. All these years, he knows some submissions. He knows. He probably knows some really tricky submissions. He'd be all those years of rolling, and like he just said, he's gonna go to jiu-jitsu gym this week and roll. So he's and he said he still works out. So he's definitely on top of his game still. So that'd be cool to. I still can't. I think he would have like a huge gym in Ohio. That'd be crazy. I mean, especially like him and Coleman. Him and Coleman should have like one of the biggest gyms in Ohio. These guys are like, MMA and grappling legends. These guys have all these wrestling titles too. I figure those two should have like one of the biggest gyms in Ohio. So maybe one day, you never know.
He started talking about not wanting a rematch with Igor and how he's like a 300-pound baker now. That kind of reminded me. Did you guys ever see Tank Abbott fight Scott Ferozzo? In a backyard.
Yeah, I saw that.
He kind of reminded me of that for some reason.
Yeah.
It's just
I have a feel. I think just because Nick Nutter still does stuff, he says I think Nick would win. Now, I just think he would win. Now, I just think I think wrestlers have a more hardcore like a mentality, throughout life. I understand this guy. I understand Igor grew up hard too. That's why the fight was rougher. But I don't think Igor trains the way that he used to.
Right.
If he's 100 pounds and
I heard he owned a bakery or a restaurant or something like that.
Yeah. Man, if I had a bakery, man, I'd be eating glazed donuts. of this
That's
motherfucker
right.
all day. But that's awesome, and I'm sure my wife will be texting me any minute for me to shut the fuck up. So
All right. Well,
let's roll out.
it's a good show tonight. So I'll edit this, get this up. I won't take 2 days to edit it this time, I promise.
Awesome.
Last week was kind of weird, so I'll get this up by morning. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good night.
Deuces.